Hello, greetings, and welcome to Awake in Age of Revealing. This is Doug Michael. The topic for today is Shamnonymous, Grassroots movement, or something else. And we're going to get into discussing a little bit about this anonymous movement that's gained popularity over the last several years. And before I even get into that, ladies and gentlemen, please, I'd like to extend my deepest thanks to all of my new subscribers. You will most likely always find controversial information here. And I'd also like to address something else, ladies and gentlemen. There's been a lot of anomalies with YouTube as far as messing with numbers. I've been contacted by a number of people that claim to be auto-unsubscribed. I produce all my videos for public, and YouTube automatically puts them as private. So you might want to just check back with the channel often, because Endall and I are going to be pumping these videos out, so you might not get the notification. Obviously, there are some forces that are pissed off about the information that we're putting out, but so be it. We're going to continue to do so. So, ladies and gentlemen, Endall and I were talking the other day, and the subject of the anonymous organization came up, and we both agreed that there is more to this alleged grassroots movement than meets the eye. This presentation is not going to identify who the human controllers are behind this bullshit grassroots movement. But what follows in this presentation is going to be the information we dug out in reference to our research, and we're going to leave it up to you to make up your own mind on the matter. I have talked about living in a world of illusions throughout my videos, and I realize that some people who may chance upon my channel may not know just what the fuck I'm talking about when I say that most all of our reality is an illusion. In discussing doing this video, Endall and I decided that the subject matter would be an ideal platform to illustrate what we mean by perceptual illusions when we refer to them in these videos. We're going to present images and information that may not be widely known to my viewers in reference to the anonymous group and destroy the illusion that it is remotely a grassroots movement. The first part of this revealing is found when we look at the symbols and trademarks of anonymous followers worldwide. The first aspect we want to reveal is the meaning behind the Guy Fawkes mask worn by Anonymous, its origin, and its hidden meaning to the majority of sheepish followers buying the masks and hiding behind them to protest. Guy Fawkes was a Catholic revolutionary who tried to blow up the English Parliament, particularly the House of Lords, along with King James I in 1605, hoping that through assassinating the Protestant king that they could place a Catholic ruler on the throne of England. This Catholic revolutionary attempted a political assassination on a very large scale in what is historically known as the Gunpowder Plot. Someone sent an anonymous letter, and the authorities at Westminster Palace searched the grounds and the tunnels underneath and found Guy Fawkes guarding all the barrels of gunpowder that the Catholic conspirators had stored there in preparation for the explosive assassination. The holiday known today as Guy Fawkes Day, celebrated on November 5th, commemorates the foiling of this Catholic assassination plot, but to many people, the meaning of this holiday has been lost through time. Now that we have a little bit of background of just who Guy Fawkes was and know who is the symbolic face on the masks that Anonymous wears, then we have a foundation for understanding the origin of the symbol. I also ask my viewers to take notice of the fact that the greater portion of the time these anonymous pulpit pounders put out their videos of protest, they're usually wearing hooded black robes, just a bit too eerily like the Jesuit priestly robes of centuries past. Is this just a coincidence? You'll come to find that in the world of the consortium, its machinations and manipulations, there are no coincidences. Out of the multitude of symbols that could be chosen to represent the anonymous preachers and the leaders of the Occupy movement, why did they settle on the mask of a 400-year-old Catholic assassin and wear the garments of 400-year-old Jesuits to protect their image to the public? The symbolism alone is quite alarming and revealing. So let's step aside for a moment and take into consideration a few other facts that may have escaped notice. Let's talk about the movie V for Vendetta. In that movie, we find a corrupt and lying government, lying through the TV to the populace and lying about their actions. Just like in real life. Imagine that. Anyway, the government in this movie is definitely a Protestant-type government, curiously, just like the government of James I. So the anarchist hero of the movie has a real hard-on against the government because they did heinous experiments on him and he wants revenge, which varies from the original gunpowder plot, but that doesn't really matter. And here's a little spoiler alert, so if you haven't seen the film and you want to skip a little bit past this part, go right ahead. So, spoiler alert. At the end of the film, the hero sends a trainload of explosives under Parliament and blows it up, just like Guy Fawkes and the other Catholic conspirators tried to do a little over 400 years ago. Now we have to ask, what is really behind the theme of these seemingly anarchist movies? Now let's take another step aside and look into the person who created the V for Vendetta graphic novels, Alan Moore. Alan Moore is a self-proclaimed practicing black magician who follows the teachings of Aleister Crowley and had known about Crowley since he was about 12 years old. Moore readily admits that there are references to Crowley in the V for Vendetta film, for those who may be blissfully unaware of this relevant little fact. Crowley tried to single-handedly destroy Christianity, which, as we all know, utterly failed. Alan Moore feels that he is continuing Crowley's work with the V for Vendetta film, along with some of his other literary and film ventures. Researchers into the global conspiracy over the years have been compartmentalizing who the true bad guys are in this quest for global domination. Some say it's the Freemasons, others say it's the Jews or the Zionists, others say it's the Vatican and the Jesuits, or the Vatican and the Knights of Malta, who do seem to hold a disproportionate number of high-level positions in the Pentagon and the CIA, provided what research that's out there can be wholly believed. Endall is the only other researcher I've found that shows that all of these groups are in on the plan for global domination. They are all vying with one another, fighting to see who will be king of the mountain when the game all falls apart, and they are each and all propagandizing and finger-pointing against each other to make the public believe it is one or another, but never themselves. All of this is part of the grand illusion to keep humanity always guessing as to who's doing what to who, and this game keeps conspiracy researchers from ever really figuring out the big picture, because they each get sold on their own perceptual beliefs and can't expand their awareness to see how big the picture truly is. The fact of the matter is that, just as the inorganics have set and controlled every religious and spiritual doctrine on the planet, they have done the same thing in the political spectrum. Anyone who thinks for a minute that the Vatican isn't as eyeball deep in these magical practices as the mystical occult practitioners are, better wake the fuck up. We have to ask why it is that the Catholic priests know just about every demon name they do their exorcisms for. I ask my listeners to consider the serious probability that these priests of God are calling these inorganic demons to possess people in the first place, just so they can make a lousy buck on the exorcism rituals. Ritual magic is ritual magic, and it doesn't matter if they do it in the precincts of a Freemasonic lodge, a Jewish synagogue, a Muslim mosque, a Hindu temple, or a Catholic church. All of your professed devotions and dedications to these gods and your ritual religious practices amount to nothing more than these institutions, governed and ruled by the inorganic assholes themselves, stealing your personal energies by professing your faith, belief, partaking of communion, practicing Wiccan rituals, praying to your gods, lighting prayer candles, baptisms, ritual washings before worship, or anything else you do that is associated with these created religious edifices. I hate to tell you folks, but it's all fucking black magic designed to steal your personal power and keep you begging for the inorganics' varied brands of salvation, dedication, or worship. People seem to think that Freemasonry and other secret societies are non-religious, but Masonry demands that anyone who joins their lodges has to profess some belief in a higher power. Why do they have one of their ranks called Worshipful Master? Just who the fuck are these Masons worshiping? I think my viewers should know now the answer to that. I have wandered a bit afield of the anonymous thing, so let's get back on track and let me illustrate how it appears that these seemingly unrelated traditions sort of weave themselves together through symbolism. First off, let's take a look at the symbol for the United Nations. Now, let's take a look at this particular symbol of the anonymous group. I trust you can see the similarity, especially when they are placed side by side. Isn't that just cute? Now we have to ask just who this headless man is supposed to represent when viewing this UN symbol ripoff. Few people beyond the deep researchers know it, but the Vatican is not a signatory to the United Nations. Is this perhaps what is being alluded to with the image of the headless man standing in front of a variant UN logo? Of course, it could represent the fact that Alice Bailey and her Lucius Trust's UN organization doesn't have a head either, so it could go either way. I have no definitive answer, but I find it indeed curious. So let's move on to some other anonymous symbols and see what we can find there. The first symbol I want my viewers to look at is the A within the circle, which is the symbol of anarchy. Note the distinct similarity to the symbol from the V for Vendetta film. Admittedly, they are not exactly the same, one being inverted from the other and missing the crossbar of the A, but one has to learn that symbols do not have to be exact matches to convey ideas, especially to those who are in the know. When we are dealing with the elite hierarchy on this planet, we have to realize that they communicate many of their ideas through symbolic representations, and they love the fact that they can do this right in plain sight of the herd without the herd knowing it. It should also be noted by my listeners that these symbols can be and are infused with energetic intent. It is through such energetic manipulation, with the aid of the inorganics and their earthly magician adepts, that these symbols have the power they do to sway first cognition minds. Now, let's take the symbol for anarchy and see if we can find any other symbols that might be closely representational of that symbol. Here, we have the symbol of Coranzon, which according to Wikipedia is a demon or devil that originated in writing with the 16th century occultists Edward Kelly and John Dee within the latter's occult system of Enochian magic. In the 20th century, he became an important element within the mystical system of Thelema, founded by Aleister Crowley, where he is the dweller in the abyss, believed to be the last great obstacle between the adept and enlightenment. At first, you might want to protest that there is no connection between the anarchist symbol, sometimes associated with the anonymous movement, and Crowley's Coranzon symbol, but when we view Alan Moore's desire to forward Crowley's desire to destroy Christianity, then we shouldn't so hastily shut down the idea out of hand. Now, just to show another variant of the triangle within the circle, let's take a look at the logo for good old Ashtar Command. And from the Ashtar Command variant of the symbol, let's see if we can find a theosophical association. Well, gee whiz, just take a look. Not only do we find that Alice Bailey herself used a version of the Coranzon symbol, but glory be, so does Alcoholics Anonymous with its double A letters in the middle of the triangle. Curiously enough, the letters AA are associated with Crowley's belief system, which Wikipedia describes like this. The AA is a spiritual organization described in 1907 by occultist Aleister Crowley. Its members are dedicated to the advancement of humanity by perfection of the individual on every plane through a graded series of universal initiations. Its initiations are syncretic, unifying the essence of Theravada Buddhism with Vedantic yoga and ceremonial magic. The AA applies what it describes as mystical and magical methods of spiritual attainment under the structure of the Kabbalistic tree of life, and aims to research, practice, and teach scientific Illuminism. And further, the AA was formulated in 1907 by Aleister Crowley and George Cecil Jones, claiming authority from Aiwass, the author of the Book of the Law, and other secret chiefs of the planetary spiritual order after the schism in and subsequent collapse of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn at the turn of the 20th century. And voila, folks, we find those fucking inorganics behind these pernicious doctrines and symbols once again. Isn't it amazing that no matter what rock we turn over in our research, we find these goddamned off-world inorganic secret chiefs showing up in one guise or another, dictating what humanity should do? Through symbolism and doctrine, we ultimately discover that it's the fucking inorganics who are ultimately behind the anonymous organization. God damn, ladies and gentlemen, I'm stunned beyond words. So let's take a moment to recap here. We have Catholic symbolism through the Guy Fawkes revolutionary symbolism, a movie aimed specifically at a fascist-type Protestant government. Goodness forbid they portray Catholicism in a bad light, right? Parliament being blown up. Why not the Vatican? Which the Pope and the Vatican have been drooling over since Henry VIII, told Rome and the Pope to go fuck themselves and form the Church of England in 1534. We have the black and white symbolism found both in the Jesuit priestly order as well as with Freemasonry, which this combined image so plainly shows. I find it highly curious indeed that a couple of the symbols are representational of the skull and bones of the old privateer pirate ships, as well as the Skull and Bones Society, but what the hell, I could be reaching here. I leave it to my viewers to make that determination for themselves. Now let's take a look at this image from Anonymous. We are legion. We do not forgive. We do not forget. Well, since Anonymous seems to be targeting American financial interests in particular, most notably through the Occupy Wall Street movement, then we have to stand back and wonder who are legion and who never forgets and never forgives. Although the sloganeering indicates the faceless people hiding behind the Catholic Guy Fawkes masks, I think our answer lies with the most pernicious and hateful intelligence-gathering agency the world has ever known, and that is the Jesuit order. They truly are legion in their numbers. With their hatred of anything not Catholic, they do not forget and they do not forgive. For those of my subscribers who are not too familiar with history, the Jesuit order was run out of virtually every European country at one time or another due to their political intrigues and plots against governments, just like the gunpowder plot. Do you really think they have changed their ways in the modern world? The Jesuits are the spies in plain sight hiding in every church and hearing confessions worldwide. Do you honestly think they don't have a political agenda? Jesuitism is the force behind the throne of Catholicism, the inner court, if you will. How many people have ever heard of Adolfo Nicholas, the Jesuit superior general, a man referred to as the Black Pope? The Knights of Malta are the frontline military intelligence apparatus for the Jesuits, and they answer to the Jesuit general, the Black Pope. The Jesuit order, or Society of Jesus, is an arm of the Catholic Church which was founded by Ignatius Loyola in 1534. Ignatius was the first superior general of the order. The Jesuit motto is, "For the greater glory of God." Now, of course, God here refers to the malevolent, inorganic consciousnesses they worship, and not the God that most Christians identify with. Loyola played a major role in fighting against the Protestant Reformation and instigating the Counter-Reformation. Loyola was canonized and received the title of saint in 1622. Remember also that Adam Weishaupt, the founder of the Bavarian Illuminati, and Dr. Joseph Hieronym Redinger, co-founder of the Bilderberg Group, were Jesuits. Because of their power and influence, the Jesuits were suppressed in 1773 by the monarchs of France and Spain and even some cardinals within the Vatican, but the order was reestablished in 1814 by Pope Pius VII. The Jesuits control 93 provinces and 13 dependent regions. Each province is governed by a superior that answers to the Black Pope. Illumined Freemasonry is joined at the hip with the Jesuit order and the Knights of Malta. Vatican City is actually its own sovereign state within a state and is one of the main headquarters of consortium control. Like Washington, D.C., the entire city is built on esoteric themes. The Jesuit order began with 9 men, and in 15 years grew to a membership of over 1,000. The Jesuits swear obedience to the general of the order, which is the Black Pope. Since its inception, the Church of Rome has mass murdered tens of millions of people worldwide, has removed massive amounts of ancient esoteric knowledge from circulation, has destroyed ancient wisdom, temples, and indigenous peoples, has been involved in major scandals as with the Masonic P2 debacle, has enslaved, tortured, and persecuted masses of people, and today finds itself mired within a major scandal involving the massive and widespread molestation of young children. The Catholic Church and its behind-the-scenes Jesuit influence is a malevolent entity, corrupt from its inception, and is a driving force behind the consortium's plan for global enslavement. Many of the founders of America warned about Jesuit influence. In a letter penned to Thomas Jefferson in 1816, John Quincy Adams, the sixth American president and Freemason, had this to say concerning the Jesuit order. My history of the Jesuits is not elegantly written, but is supported by unquestionable authorities, is very particular and very horrible. Their restoration is indeed a step toward darkness, cruelty, perfidy, despotism, and death, and I wish we were out of danger of bigotry and Jesuitism. Marquis de Lafayette, the French statesman and member of the Continental Army during the Revolutionary War, had this to say concerning Jesuit power. He said, "It is my opinion that if the liberties of this country, the United States of America, are destroyed, it will be by the subtlety of the Roman Catholic Jesuit priests, for they are the most crafty, dangerous enemies to civil and religious liberty. They have instigated most of the wars of Europe." The symbol of the eagle and of the two-headed eagle appears everywhere and has been used throughout history. The eagle actually represents the mythical phoenix, which burns itself up and rises from the ashes. In many depictions, as with the Vatican symbol, the heads are facing different directions, which symbolizes dominion over both east and west. The orb, with the cross on top, within the left talon, symbolizes church authority over the earth, and the scepter symbolizes the spiritual impulses of humankind. A Maltese cross appears over the belly of the bird, which symbolizes military power. The Roman Empire used the eagle symbol, as did the Nazis. Freemasonry displays this symbol as well. The eagle symbolism also appears in so many areas in the United States. It appears on our currency, on the logos of governmental agencies, in corporate advertising, and even appears in the logo of the Federal Reserve Bank. Why do these occult symbols that were used by the Third Reich, the Roman Empire, Illumined Masonry, and the Vatican appear in so many areas in the U.S.? Well, the answer is because it's the same force that has and still does control the institutions and organizations that have co-opted these ancient sacred symbols. Once the language of symbolism is understood, it's amazing to see how many areas are controlled by the consortium. The eagle is also representative of the astrological sign of Scorpio. In ancient times, the eagle represented Scorpio before it evolved into the symbol of the scorpion. The eagle is a massive bird of prey, which should also say something to the astute observer. Just to add some nails to this coffin, I wonder how many of my subscribers are familiar with the term liberation theology. For those unfamiliar with the term, it is a form of revolutionary Catholicism, which is also referred to as Marxist Catholicism. It is liberation theology that keeps all of Latin America in revolutionary turmoil, with Jesuit priests preaching Marxist revolutionary ideas from their pulpits wrapped in alleged biblical justification. Jesus was a Marxist revolutionary, don't you know? Now, isn't it curious that the present Pope just happens to be the first Jesuit Pope in the entire history of the Roman Church, and that he comes from the hotbed of Marxist Catholicism in South America? I guess we could chalk this all up to simple coincidence, but if we look at the rebellious agenda of Anonymous coupled with the Fabian Marxist agenda to take over the world, and that the present Pope is a Marxist Jesuit, is it any wonder that all of these symbols magically come together to represent these revolutionaries calling themselves Anonymous? Under V for Vendetta on Wikipedia, it's reported that on 23rd May 2009, protesters dressed up as V and set off a fake barrel of gunpowder outside Parliament while protesting over the issue of British MPs' expenses. Folks, there's more going on here than meets the eye. If Anonymous is a genuine grassroots movement, then I shit golden bars, and I can stand on my head while regurgitating $100 bills. So, let's see if I might be remotely correct in any of these suggestions. Again, from Wikipedia, we are told that anonymous hackers and protesters launched attacks against government agencies of the U.S., Israel, Tunisia, Uganda, and others, the Islamic State of Iraq, and the Levant, child pornography sites, copyright protection agencies, the Westboro Baptist Church, and corporations such as PayPal, MasterCard, Visa, and Sony. It further reports, dozens of people have been arrested for involvement in anonymous cyber attacks in countries including the U.S., UK, Australia, the Netherlands, Spain, and Turkey. Evaluations of the group's actions and effectiveness vary widely. Supporters have called the group, quote, freedom fighters, and digital Robin Hoods, while critics have described them as a cyber lynch mob or cyber terrorists. In 2012, Time called Anonymous one of the 100 most influential people in the world. Anonymous also supports WikiLeaks. Now, with the list of anonymous targets just shared, don't we find it just a little bit curious that in all of their hacking and protesting endeavors, that Anonymous seems to avoid singling out Catholic priestly pedophiles? I mean, if these people are about exposing the truth of corruption, where are the protests by the Guy Fawkes-wearing assholes demonstrating in front of Catholic churches, Masonic lodges, and the fucking UN? Their protests seem to be kind of selective, don't they? With a definite form of selective blindness over who they protest against and who they leave alone. The comedian George Carlin said he made his living by going out and watching the stupid shit humans do. Then he comes to his audiences and reports the stupid shit to them. In like kind, with these video presentations, we are doing the same thing on different subject matter. Although I do try to inject some humor here and there to lighten the load a little bit of these ugly truths, there really is nothing funny about this shit, ladies and gentlemen. So let's address the stupid shit for a minute, shall we? Let's see. I'm the average Joe Six-Pack on the street, and I'm pissed because those fucking bankers keep raising my mortgage interest payments, and there really isn't shit that I can do about it. So what the hell are my options? I think I'll go buy a Guy Fawkes mask and jump into a crowd of cognitively manipulated dumb shits just like me, making some mask maker rich while I think I'm being independent and protesting against the wealthy, and go wave banners and give 'em hell by marching and yelling like a fool. Shit, I might just break a window or two with a brick and really show those fuckers my displeasure. Jeez. It doesn't matter that I am being cognitively manipulated because I'm ignorant as a fucking rock and don't know jack shit about history. I'm going to let my emotions and my ignorance rule the day. Welcome to the real world of the first cognition, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the world of illusion and manipulation, where every ego gets what it thinks it wants and gets to show its ass at will. Welcome to the Carnival Outre. Do you really wonder why the ideas about the second cognition are so appealing? On a closing note, I'm sharing a link below to an article about Alcoholics Anonymous and the occult ties between Aleister Crowley and that organization. For those who are curious, you should find it interesting reading, and that will be listed in the description section, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for taking your time to listen to Awaken the Age of Revealing. I extend my deepest gratitude and my heartfelt thanks to any and to all that consciously push forward to expand their cognitive awareness and to open-mindedly search for the truth. Thank you once again. This is Doug Michael, and until next time, walk in peace.